The morning sun rose over the tall glass towers of Lagos, and inside a silent upscale home sat Amara, a young black African woman in her early 30s, dressed in a modern cream blouse and fitted trousers, staring at the empty nursery she had decorated months ago, its crib untouched, toys lined neatly, and soft curtains swaying in the gentle breeze. Though the room was beautiful, it carried a crushing silence that screamed louder than any noise in the city outside, and as she whispered to herself, "I gave God everything, yet he left me empty-handed," her heart ached with years of longing, because she and her husband Kelechi, a successful banker always dressed in sharp tailored suits, had tried for years to have a child. Yet every hospital visit, every prayer night, and every negative test result had left her spirit bruised and her faith shaken. And that morning, as Kelechi adjusted his tie in their bedroom mirror, trying to comfort her with hopeful words like, "Babe, we'll try again. Let's not give up," she turned away in tears, thinking that perhaps hope itself had already abandoned her. Days later, unable to fight the emptiness within, Amara dressed in a denim jacket over a flowing modern gown and wandered through a crowded Lagos marketplace filled with laughter, the aroma of roasted corn, and women carrying babies on their backs while children tugged at their mothers' skirts, and each sight deepened the hollow space in her heart until she noticed a little girl, no older than 3, with neat braids, a bright pink dress, and tiny sneakers, clutching a doll while her mother haggled with a fruit vendor. Their eyes met, and in that innocent gaze, Amara felt both pain and temptation tearing her apart, her mind whispering, "Don't do it," even as her body moved closer, kneeling to say softly, "Hey, sweetheart, want to see something pretty?" And when the child shyly nodded, Amara's trembling hand reached out, leading her away while the busy marketplace distracted the mother, and in moments she had slipped into her sleek black SUV, heart pounding violently, the child seated beside her still holding the doll and trusting her completely. Back home, Amara carried the girl into the nursery she once thought cursed with silence, and now, filled with the sound of childish giggles, her tears flowed as she whispered, "Finally, this house won't be empty anymore." Watching the girl hug a stuffed bear, laugh at the rocking chair, and fill the air with joy Amara thought she'd never feel again. But when the girl asked, "Where's my mommy?" Amara's voice broke as she forced a smile and replied, "I'm your mommy now," though guilt shadowed her eyes. Meanwhile, back at the market, chaos had erupted, the child's mother screaming in agony as she realized her daughter was gone. Her colorful gown clutched desperately as vendors shouted, police whistles rang, and the news of a missing girl spread like wildfire through the city. That evening, when Kelechi returned from work, loosening his tie, expecting peace after a long day, he froze upon hearing a child's laughter from the nursery, rushing upstairs to find Amara on the floor, laughing with the little girl stacking blocks. His eyes widened in horror, voice cracking as he asked, "Amara, whose child is this?" And when she replied with trembling joy, "She's ours now, Kelechi. God has answered me in another way." His face hardened, realizing what she had done. "Are you out of your mind? You stole someone's daughter?" he shouted, while the child looked between them with confusion, clutching her doll tighter. Amara pleaded desperately, grabbing his arms with tears streaming. "Please, don't take her from me. You don't know how empty I've been, this house." "My heart." It was dead, but look at her, Kelechi. She's life. She's hope. But Kelechi's voice thundered back. "Hope built on someone else's tears is not hope. It's a curse." And his words cut through her like a knife, leaving her collapsing into his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Night fell, the little girl finally asleep in the crib, while Amara sat by the window in a modern silk nightgown, staring out at the glowing city, her phone buzzing with news alerts, her hands shaking as she scrolled through social media posts filled with the missing child's picture and frantic pleas. "Help us find Chiamaka! 3-year-old girl missing. Reward offered! And suddenly the nursery walls that once felt like salvation now closed in like a prison cell. Behind her, Kalechi spoke quietly but firmly. It's not too late, Amara. We can fix this. But if you don't let her go, fate itself will come knocking. And though his words were full of warning, Amara turned, her eyes hollow but defiant, whispering, Fate already knocked, Kalechi, and I opened the door as the camera of life seemed to zoom in on her trembling face, the suspense hanging heavy in the room, leaving the night thick with questions that only tomorrow could answer. The city of Lagos buzzed with sirens and flashing lights as posters of the missing girl, Chiamaka, spread across every street corner, and inside the quiet upscale house where Amara lived, silence pressed against the walls like a heavy weight, broken only by the sound of the little girl's soft breathing as she slept in the crib, unaware of the storm raging outside. Amara, dressed in a modern navy gown, sat on the edge of her bed with her head buried in her hands, replaying every second of the marketplace in her mind, knowing she had crossed a line she could never uncross, while her husband Kalechi paced the room in his white shirt and dark trousers, his jaw clenched, his voice sharp with desperation as he said, Amara, we can't hide this. The police will find us, and when they do, it won't just be your heart that breaks. It'll be our lives. She looked up at him with tear-streaked cheeks, her eyes burning with a fragile defiance. You don't understand, Kalechi. God denied me again and again. But when I saw her, when she looked at me, it felt like fate was finally giving me a gift. You can call it madness, but I call it destiny. Kalechi slammed his fist against the wall, his voice trembling with both anger and fear. Destiny does not come by stealing another woman's child. You think you've healed your wounds, but you've only opened deeper ones, and not just for yourself, for her mother too. In the nursery, the little girl stirred, clutching her doll, her small voice calling, Mommy, and Amara rushed in instantly, smoothing the child's hair, whispering, I'm here, sweetheart, Mommy's here. Though deep down she knew she was speaking a lie that echoed louder every time she said it. The following day, Amara carried Chiamaka into the living room, dressed in a stylish blazer and slim jeans to appear like any ordinary mother, and as the child played with blocks on the rug, Amara's phone buzzed with another news update. The story had made national headlines, the missing girl's face plastered across television screens, the desperate mother's cries replayed for all to see. Amara's hands shook as she turned off the TV, but the child had already seen, her tiny voice asking, Why is that lady crying? And Amara's heart twisted painfully as she forced a smile. She's just sad, darling, don't worry. Kalechi, standing by the window, glared at her with disbelief. How much longer can you keep lying to a child, Amara? She's not blind. She will know. Amara ignored him, clinging tighter to the girl, whispering as if to herself, She's mine now. She has to be mine. That night, thunder rumbled over Lagos as rain lashed against the windows, and in the nursery, Amara rocked Chiamaka to sleep in the modern rocking chair, humming softly, but just as the girl's eyes closed, faint red and blue lights flashed across the curtains. The police were nearby, searching door to door. Kalechi rushed in, panic etched across his face. They're here, Amara. We can't keep her any longer. We'll lose everything. Amara froze, her heart pounding, then whispered fiercely, If they take her, they'll take me too, because without her, I am nothing. Kalechi grabbed her shoulders, his voice breaking. You are my wife, Amara. You are something to me. Don't let your pain destroy us both. But before Amara could respond, there was a sudden knock on the door, firm, unrelenting. The sound jolted Amara, her arms tightening around the sleeping child as if the knock itself would rip Chiamaka away. Kalechi moved toward the door, his face pale. If we lie, it will only get worse, he said, his voice trembling. Amara's mind raced, sweat dripping down her brow. She placed the girl back into the crib and whispered, "Stay quiet, my angel," then followed Kelechi into the hallway. The knocking grew louder, a voice calling, "Police! Open up!" The weight of fate pressed down like chains. Kelechi reached for the door handle, but Amara pulled his arm. "If you open it, she's gone." Kelechi's eyes burned with pain. "If I don't, you're gone." Before the standoff could break, a piercing cry rang out from the nursery. Chiamaka had woken, her voice echoing through the house. "Mommy! Mommy!" The word cut through Amara's chest like glass, sweet and cruel all at once. The police outside fell silent. Then the knock came again, sharper, angrier. "We heard a child! Open this door now!" Kelechi turned to Amara with finality in his eyes. "This is it, Amara. Fate has arrived." Amara's body trembled, tears streaming uncontrollably as she whispered, "No. Please, not yet." But even as she begged, she knew it was over. With trembling hands, Kelechi opened the door. Two officers stepped in, their uniforms drenched from the rain, their stern faces scanning the house. Behind them, a woman in a soaked Ankara gown staggered forward, her eyes swollen from endless crying. It was Chiamaka's real mother. The moment her eyes landed on the crib, she let out a scream that shook the walls, rushing forward to scoop her daughter into her arms. The child's face lit up instantly, crying, "Mommy!" with a joy that pierced Amara's heart like 1,000 knives. Amara collapsed onto the floor, her modern silk scarf falling from her shoulders, her body racked with sobs as she reached out helplessly. "Don't take her from me, please don't! She's all I have!" But the mother's arms tightened protectively around her daughter, her eyes burning with grief and fury. "She was never yours," she spat, her voice like fire. The officers pulled Amara up, her wrists bound, while Kelechi stood silently, tears streaming down his face, his heart breaking for his wife even as he knew this was justice. As Amara was led out into the stormy night, flashing lights blinding her, neighbors gathered in shock, whispers filling the air. She looked back one last time at the nursery window, where the girl had once laughed and played. And in that moment she understood the cruel irony. Fate had indeed given her a child, but only to reveal the depth of her own brokenness. With every step toward the waiting police car, her heart screamed, not for freedom, not for forgiveness, but for the emptiness that had returned, heavier than ever before. And as the door slammed shut, Amara's voice cracked in the night air. "I only wanted to be a mother." The car drove off, leaving the house silent again, the nursery once more empty. But now it carried a truth Amara could no longer deny, that filling an empty heart with stolen joy only leads to greater sorrow, and that fate always collects its debt in the end.